I put down my chopsticks and looked over at my parents, who were still talking about work. The first course of action that came to mind was to tell my parents everything. Currently, there wasn't a single person from Hinamizawa I could trust 100%. That meant the only people I could trust were my parents. But if I told them everything that happened till now, would they even understand? Rena, for example. That neighborly Rena, who was so diligent in looking after me, came to get me every day, and sometimes brought over a share of what she made. How could I explain that she wanted to kill me? No matter how I explained, it will probably be difficult for anybody to comprehend. I mean, especially with your parents who don't know that much about the history of Hinamizawa. My somewhat eccentric dad wouldn't understand, and my high-strung mom would probably drag me off to a psychiatrist in the blink of an eye. Sadly, that was the amount of trust that existed in our relationship. Even if they did come to understand, what could they possibly do? Unless they could uncover the truth, they wouldn't be able to protect me. No. By informing them of these unnecessary things, I'd be putting my parents in danger as well. Considering that the victims in past incidents were often married couples, I couldn't even joke about it. For the entire Mayabara family to have an accident or to just vanish into thin air, it was easily possible in Hinamizawa. What was important here was that knowing something unnecessary put you in danger. The most unsettling question was, how did they know that I knew? As long as they didn't know, my parents might not fall victim. And that was one way to think about it, I guess. At least, it was like that in my case. After I found out, things started becoming odd. In other words, it meant the following. As long as my parents didn't know anything, nothing would happen to them. Which means that this house would be safe haven, as long as my parents were in. I knew these were just assumptions, based on conjecture on top of conjecture. Wanting this house to be a safe haven. That was the pinnacle of my weak-willed method of thinking. I had to concede that it was not completely safe. It was only safer than the outside. I knew that I couldn't rely on my parents. No, I couldn't risk getting my parents involved. Then the only person who could be my ally would be Oishi-san. Him and him alone. He was the only person who understood the situation I was in. He didn't care so much about my safety, but he was without a doubt passionate about solving this case. It was a bit frustrating. Oishi-san was basically the whole reason I was in this mess. Now to get out of it, I had to rely on him. Meaning it was all going according to his devices. It was just my job to look appetizing, while bobbing in the waves as bait. And then, when the fish started regathering around, Oishi-san would pull the big hole. He was slightly infuriating, but even I thought that was the best course of action. So then, what should I do? Well, patience was the first rule of fishing. Just keep waiting until the fish actually bites. But I wasn't simply bait. There were lots of ways for me to struggle before being devoured. When they struck, I needed to somehow dodge just enough and tag out to Oishi-san. No question, it was going to be hard. The timing to bring Oishi-san in would be difficult. He was in the city, not Hinamizawa. So if I phoned him in my moment of need, it would take him about 30 minutes to reach me. So I needed to run away for those 30 minutes. For example, if we set up a rendezvous point for dire situations or something, I just have to hide out there until Oishi-san arrived.
よし、少し見えてきたぞ。
I was still being chased around in the dark by boogeymen, but now I knew which way to go. I would never have imagined this would be so reassuring. Oh yeah, it would probably be best if I had a concealed weapon for when things got rough. That is, yeah, typically that would call for a switchblade, but that wasn't too reassuring for combat. could there be a weapon that we could use that it would be impossible for Keiichi to kill himself with? Also, since it was recognized as a weapon by the public, that also wasn't good. Or he could just, start learning karate or something like that, some martial arts. Really, when the time comes, a long weapon like a bat would work in my favor. I remember there was a metal bat at school. How poetic. I could be confident with that when push came to shove. Okay, well, if it's at school, if I pretended I was practicing my swing, then it wouldn't be suspicious for me to always carry it around. So, basically learn to play baseball as disguise. I could go to school early tomorrow and secure it. And just possessing a weapon may be enough to deter them. Also, one more thing. Insurance. It could be something like a note or memo. I could write down everything that's happened as a sort of journal. In case I suddenly vanished, the journal would be left behind. I don't know, Keiichi. I guess it's good, but it is evidence left behind. If any of the perpetrators would be able to find that note, then it's yabai. With my journal in his possession, Oishi-san should be able to avenge my death. I left my parents engrossed in their conversation about work and went back to my room. Unless you are to find like a really good hiding spot to hide that note for Oishi-san to find it. But in order for that to work, Oishi-san would need like a code to be told. Keiichi tells Oishi the code that would bring him to the hiding spot for that note. And Oishi could use the clues from that notebook. I tore out a piece of paper from a notebook and made my way to my desk. Last time I wrote a journal was for summer homework in elementary school. In the off chance something bad happened, the police could use my diary as a lead. So I should only write down facts. How should I start? I jotted down my thoughts as they came. I, Keiichi Maebara, am in fear for my life. It made me laugh nervously. It was a line that showed up often in detective stories. I never even dreamt that I would be in the type of situation where I'd write it myself. I don't know why they are after my life. When the others were suspicious. But I had no proof. And that's why I couldn't write anything more. I laughed wryly at myself for writing such a passage wrapped in mystery. Would the police be able to get a hint from reading this enigmatic passage? If I could only pray that they would. What I prayed for the most, though, was that this journal never needed to play its part. Here, I laughed nervously. It was too simple, so I wrote down one more line I just thought of. And the only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Was that too much? I probably shouldn't write more than that. If I wrote any more, then it would seem like I was just delusional. In order to appear to the reader that the person who had written this was of sound mind, I chose not to write anything else at that point. I just need to add more as I learned more about the truth. I folded the paper and thought about the place to hide it. By hiding it somewhere obvious, there was a chance that they would uncover it instead. On the other hand, if it was in too obscure a location, then there was the risk of nobody finding it at all. In the end, I decided to take the clock off my wall and stick my folded note on the back of it with scotch tape. After that, I put the clock back into its normal position. Yeah. It didn't look like anything was hidden behind it. No, I needed to set it up such that if anything happens to me, my parents could find it. I looked at it from countless different angles until I was set aside, and I made my way downstairs. My parents were still talking about work. It didn't look like it was going to end anytime soon, so I cut it in. Again, it reminds me of JoJo. Like, somebody was in his last moments dying, and they had to point to a clock in order to get the hint so that they could defeat the enemy.
話中ごめん。ちょっと聞いてもらっていいかな。
I had never started off a conversation like that before, so my parents were both startled. They stopped talking and turned towards me.
どうしたのケイチ？
お願いがあるんだけど、聞いてほしいんだ。もしもだよ。
圭一、急ぎの話じゃなきゃ後にしなさい。お父さんとお母さんはちょっと今、急ぎの話をしてるんだ。
I didn't think their talk was more urgent than mine. In any case, I stated my quest.
もしもだよ。俺が死んだらさ。
Both my parents' eyes went as wide as saucers.
死んだらさ、俺の部屋にある時計、あれを棺に入れてほしいんだ。
Ooh. That's a good one. If they did that, then they'd probably find it. My memoir. Both my parents remained wide-eyed, not moving an inch. I couldn't blame them.
あの時計、工作の授業で作ったお気に入りなんだ。
Yeah, it does have sentimental value to Keiichi. He made it with his friends here.
頼むよ。
どうしたのケイチ？何かあったの？
Mom was finally able to ask me with a questioning gaze. Of course, this was a normal response for when someone's son suddenly talked about a subject like this. At this young age. I felt bad about making them worry, but right now, I just wanted them to think about the clock in my room. With the awkward mood leaving the room in silence, I decided to go back up my room.
俺さ、明日は早くに学校に行きたいから、もう寝るよ。おやすみ。
Saying only that, I left the living room. Now, the thing is, though, we gotta pray that your mom and dad are not gonna spill something like that to Rena or the rest of the girls. I hope that they're not that gossipy. I needed to get to school early tomorrow and secure that bat. Like, someone like mom would realize that, okay, something is very, very, well, not say wrong, but mom definitely would think of Keiichi as being in a really, really bad mood, that he is sad as fuck. So what would mom do? She would go to Rena, who she would totally think as Keiichi's best friend, and talk about all this to have Rena make sure that Keiichi's happy, to make him feel better. And during that conversation, mom is gonna spill that sort of information to Rena. Thus, it will lead to Rena thinking that he is hiding something behind that clock, which would be quite rad. But let's hope that that's never gonna happen. I should make today the last day I went to school with Rena. As I climbed the stairs, I heard my mom call my name, but I pretended not to hear her. It wasn't something I could talk about with my parents. If I talked about it, it would only make things more dangerous. The fight that had begun was mine and mine alone. I couldn't rely on anybody. I wouldn't be killed, not when I still knew nothing. Alright. Let's do our best, Keiichi. I'll help you to the best of my abilities. Not feeling so hot? Yeah. Not feeling hot.
最近、圭一くんの元気がないね。 機嫌が悪いのかな。
さーて、どうしたんだろうね。恋の病にでもかかってるんじゃないの？
みーちゃん、それ飛躍しすぎ。どう思う？
さあね。ケイちゃんひょっとしてかな。
わかんない。
あの日ケイちゃんと車で話してたの中年のでっぷりした男だったんでしょ。
うん、間違いない。
大石のやつ、ケイちゃんに何を吹き込んでるのかな。
真剣そうだったよ。圭一君は顔面蒼白だった。
あのね、レナはよく知らないだろうけど、実はあいつお社様の使いなんだよ。
I'm sorry, what?
何の話？
あいつが現れるとね、必ず鬼隠しが起こるの。本当だよ。
あれ？そうなの？
おととしリカちゃんのお母さんが受水したでしょ。その直前に大石が尋問してたんだよ。
そういえばサトシ君が転校する前にもいたね。
転校？レナはいいやつだよな。
で、今度は圭一君の前に現れたんだ。じゃあ圭一君も鬼隠しになっちゃう
An empty silence hung in the air, and then it was suddenly interrupted. By loud laughter. I've dealt with witches that would laugh like that. But now it's time to head on. Let's get back to business. This was the first time I'd ever walked with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended to the deserted lower floor. It appeared that my mom was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I just unilaterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it really couldn't be helped. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it with instant cocoa. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mom rose groggily from her slumber.
あら、ケイチ、今日は早いのね。学校の行事か何か？
No, Mom. It's just, you know what they say. An early bird will work 10 times more.
別に。
Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat.
もう行くの？お弁当は？もうちょっと待ってくれないとできないわよ。
Yep, just bread in his mouth, that's it. If I waited for her to make my lunch, it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Rena and me on the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was going to go to school alone. Soy Rena, Mion, Yurika, Satoko. For right now, Keiichi is gonna be alone. For a while.
今日はいいよ。
じゃあお昼はどうするの？
抜け出して商店で菓子パンでも買うよ。
そう。じゃあこれ、お昼代ね。ちゃんとレシート持ってくるのよ。
I took the 1,000 yen bill from my mom and slipped it into my pocket.
こんなに早いけど、レナちゃんたちもこんなに早いの？
いや、俺だけ。
レナちゃんには早く出るって伝えてあるの？
I have no reason to tell her every detail now, do I? Finding it difficult answering the answer to the questions, I made an annoyed face.
レナが来たら、ケイイチは先に行ったって伝えてよ。
ちょっとケイチ、待ちなさい。
It's not that I didn't trust my parents. I just couldn't rely on them. And they couldn't help me. I could only hope that they didn't get involved. It was safer that way. My mom's annoying voice was cut out by the slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the door to school alone. Up until now, I had always walked down the same path at the same time each day. So I always met with the same people at the same places. But today was different. I didn't meet the people I would normally, and nobody was at the places where I would have normally met them. Of course, Arena wasn't the spot where we usually met, and there wasn't anyone in the spot where we would have met up with me on. The length of the trees' shadows, the morning air, and the brightness of the sun, it was a completely different type of morning from what I was used to. Without a doubt, it felt strange, and yet it kind of feels good. I remember some days in the past where I would wake up like early on and see the sunrise from a certain angle. It felt beautiful, with the air, like going on my balcony and looking at outside and sitting on my chair at early hours. It is good. It is during those times when I would wake up earlier than usual, when I wouldn't be able to sleep. It left me with the impression that I had destroyed the illusion Hinamizawa had set up for me before it had enough time to prepare all the props needed to deceive me. Okay, so while we're walking down the path, let me ask myself this question. If there is this weapon or drug or phenomena that happens that affects the mind of people, like let's say that it affected Keiichi already, is there something that from before that would create this? Did we actually notice this? Because, well, you know what they say about detective fiction, more specifically about the written rules of detective fiction, the Knox rules. Clues need to be evident in order for a murder mystery to be solved. I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be from the beginning. Maybe the clues that we need are gonna end up like much later. But I wonder if there are clues that we've already seen, but we have not thought of much. That maybe I missed some.
あら、ケイチくん。
Oh,
今朝は早いわね。みんなで早朝から待ち合わせ
hello there. The person who called out to me was someone we always passed by as they were taking a walk along the edge of the fields. Their name was. I forgot again. Of course, this wasn't the spot where we usually passed each other.
今朝は早くに目が覚めちゃったので、気分転換なんです。あまり気にしないでください。
I threw out a random excuse.
レナちゃんやミオンちゃんはどうしたんだい今日は一人なの
ええ、まあ。
I was being asked the same type of question my mom was asking. So I answered them in the same uninteresting, vague manner. It wasn't funny being asked where Rena was each time I passed by someone. But maybe it was to be expected. It was because for so long, we were always together so amicably. Even I felt that if I let my guard down, we could still be friends. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't think about that anymore. You spent all day yesterday thinking about how dangerous it was to go soft, didn't you? I really don't like it. Oh. A car horn blared from out of nowhere. Oishi? Even though I was walking, lost in thought, that horn was way too close. God damn it. Oishi. Like, don't ring your horn, god damn it! Like, Mion, Rena, or the perpetrator, whoever it is, could hear this. Like, the entire village is hearing us. A mechanical behemoth barreled at me from behind, catching me completely off guard. By the time I turned around, the van's hulking chassis was almost on top of me. I'd seen plenty of cars veer to the opposite shoulder to avoid pedestrians, but this car was doing the opposite. It felt like there was somebody on the opposite shoulder, and the van was swerving in my direction to avoid them. That blissfully ignorant train of thought delayed me from realizing something much, much more important. That large mass was hurtling right at me. Was it going to hit me? The inside of my hand instantly flooded with a painfully cold liquid. In that moment, the scene before me, no, time itself had frozen. In the sense of that frozen moment, I compared to the van. So close that I had no way to dodge it. And my body, the upper half, twisted awkwardly in order to look behind me. There was no way I could dive out of the way in my current position. If I lost focus now, this moment would all pause, and I would probably be plowed over, caught in the silly pose. I bent my upper body over towards the paddy by the side of the road. If I bent far enough, I'd get away with just being hit by the side view mirror. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, the temporal stasis was shattered by the deafening sound of the van. The side mirror struck my shoulder, sending me spinning off through the air like a top, locked in my contorted position. Ugh! Oh god, are you okay, Keiichi? Sent tumbling through the air, I crashed into the muddy paddy by the side of the road. My entire body was soiled and drenched. But the choice I had made in an instant was unmistakably for the best. Whew. Okay, you're not hurt, right? It didn't make you bleed, right? Well, I guess so. I was covered in mud. But when the alternative was being hit by the car, it was the closest I could be to be unscathed. Thank you, Witch of Certainty. You mean that cold inside joke. We're rising out from the paddy. For those of you who are smart, you're probably gonna figure out why I am thanking the Witch of Certainty. Rising up from the paddy, I had enough in me to glare over at the stopped van and yell profanities at the driver. I'm not sure if he was able to see me, but the van sped off slowly. Okay, well, what the hell?
待てよクソこれってひき逃げって言うんじゃねえのかよ
Ugh. Stupid. Who the fuck was that? I couldn't help but continue yelling out profanities. The disgrace from being covered in mud hurt me more than any physical wounds. I slogged through the muddy paddy and made my way back on the road.
これって犯罪じゃねえのかよ畜生
Madaku. Shit. I'll track you down and sue you. If I go looking for a van, I'm sure to find it in this little village. The path I was on had rice paddies on either side, and it had become so narrow that one car could barely fit through. It wasn't a place you could tear full speed down in a car, let alone pass by pedestrians. Not only was it a narrow road, but the car just now was closer to my side of the road than the other when it went past me. Even as I cursed, I was desperately trying to suppress the dark cloud rolling up within me. This wasn't just a hit and run. The car just now was trying to run me over, wasn't it? Thinking back, I did feel like there had been a car creeping up on me slowly for a while. Well, the thing is, though, you heard a horn. You know, if somebody were to kill you while you were not aware, they would not horn at you, Keiichi. So, That's right. As soon as I parted ways with that person taking a walk, I had that feeling the whole time. If it had wanted to pass me, then it had no shortage of chances. Normally, I would have felt suspicious and turned around sooner. But I was lost in thought and now was kicking myself for not realizing it was there sooner. And then, when the path became narrow and there was no one else in sight, he floored it. If I hesitated for even a moment, the result would have been no laughing matter. Well, okay. Like we could go with two possibilities over here. We could go with the idea that okay, this has something to do with the murders and such. Somebody is trying to kill you for knowing too much. That ends. It's probably the intent behind it, like behind the offer that is maybe because there's no way that this has nothing to do with what is going on around here. It couldn't be just a rare accident or something like that that just happens. Or there is the other possibility. Maybe now we're truly cursed, and this is this is like now we're gonna have to try our damnedest to survive from many different circumstances, like accidents, like I don't know, like random knives falling on your head if the knife was on top of the kitchen, like on top of a drawer or something like that, or I don't know, just like needles or like needles on the floor or stuff like that. As the adrenaline rush from nearly being run over subsided, and the realization of just how terrifying the preceding events were sunk in. And there was no doubt about it. That van was intentionally trying to hit me. Like there's no way that it was one of the girls who drove that car, right? In which case, maybe we truly are talking about possession right over here, where Shiro-sama himself possessed one of the girls and just just drove the car, I guess. Huh. Who knew that Oyashiro also had a driving license? A cold, vicious sweat seeped from my scalp and slid down my back before dribbling off. Struggled to avoid falling into a panic. Alright, well. There was still the possibility that this was really just an accident. Okay, calm down, Keiichi, calm down. But also, don't be so naive, Keiichi. Being that lax will get you killed next time. You need to always be on your toes. Don't give them any openings. If my enemy was really out to kill me, then next time they would use a more reliable method. Yet that time came and I was acting like I was now. And getting covered in mud was the price I had paid for my own naivety. Covered in mud, but without injury. Not even a sprain. Ha! Suck it, Oyashiro. We lived. And we will live! I guess this was what you would call the silver lining. I began walking again, this time cautiously, continuing the story of Keiichi Maebara and the 1,000 ways that he could get killed, and living through all of them. I wouldn't even show a hint of carelessness. I suspected only ran on the others up until now. No, it was because I had suspected them that I had believed there were no other enemies. Oichi-san had said so, didn't he? There was the possibility of a village conspiracy. Was I really mired so deeply in this situation that I had no choice but to try and carry on as usual? Wouldn't it be safest just to hold myself up in my house? No! You're not gonna hold up in your house, Keiichi. But the moment I abandoned my regular routine, everyone around me would abandon theirs as well. It was just too horrifying of a thought. I recall the tales of Oishi-san told me, of when Hinamizawa was still called Onigafuchi. A frightening tale of an entire village of demons hunting their prey, surrounding them and eating them alive. One must not interfere with the demons. One must pretend not to see it. The enemy were numerous, the whole village. The villagers, with their unwavering faith in the curse, would do nothing to help me. The strong sun and flash of sunshine made me slightly dizzy. I had no idea what was going on anymore. Also, we gotta be careful about this. Maybe it is this mentality that Keiichi is going through that is gonna make him even more crazy, which is what Oyashiro would want as well. So we gotta think about this without going insane ourselves, Keiichi. We gotta think of our enemies as enemies temporarily, I would say. That's how I view it. When I suspected it was the work of a man, I'll catch a glimpse of Oyashiro-sama's curse. And when I suspected it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, someone would poke their head out. What was coincidence? What was intentional? Who was my enemy? Who was just a bystander? No. What I really truly wanted to know was, how did it end up with a proverbial bullseye painted on my back? Eventually, an answer in a form I could understand will appear. I don't care when that will happen, because until then, I cannot die. That alone fueled my resolve to fight, and will keep me alive. Yeah, that's right. Holding up in our house? Like it's a zombie infestation? Peh! Bring it on, village of demons. This little boy over here is going to become the next Ash. I remembered seeing the metal bat in the gym storage shed, but there was a padlock on the door barring my entry. At the very least, I wanted to get my hands on it before everyone else arrived at school. I circled around the school grounds impatiently. But all I could find were things like pieces of lumber. Nothing that I could bring into the classroom easily. Then, I had an epiphany. I should search inside the classroom. If it was something in the classroom to begin with, then there wouldn't be a problem. Yeah. Like, something that you wouldn't think of as a weapon, normally. I could tell that everyone's indoor shoes were still in their lockers. Good thing I came early. Nobody else was here yet. I wondered, what could I find in the classroom? I didn't think I could find an especially effective weapon like a bat. Alright, Keiichi. Now, here, listen closely. I couldn't be helped at this point. Until the gym storage shed was open, I had to find a substitute. A lingering hint of naivete whispered that there was no way I'd be attacked at school. You gotta be careful when you open that door. Even more so from now on. Remember when Satoko was planning traps like that? Like the ones you know? Yeah, try to be extra careful when it comes to that. But such soft ideas would no longer protect me. To think that they were slowly making their way into parts of my life that I had once thought impenetrable. In the worst case, my own house might not be safe anymore. That was an incredibly frightening thought. But I believe that not considering the worst case scenario would have been even more frightening. Anyways, I will survive. So long as I left, then I will definitely be able to escape this labyrinth of nonsense. Definitely. We definitely need a hero. My exploration of the classroom came to an impasse. Okay, well, no trap at the door. That much was to be expected. There was no way there would be anything that could be a weapon in the classroom. In case of emergency, there was probably nothing I could do but swing my own chair around. Or use the ruler as a weapon? Try to stab somebody with that ruler if somebody were to attack you? My gaze landed on the lockers that had come to be used for personal storage. The locker that Mio used to store her pile of games was among them. There was one for each person in class, all lined up. Of course, there was one for me as well. Oh yeah, there was supposed to still be a tracksuit in my locker. Seeing me covered in mud would be strange. I should go change later. But first, I needed a weapon. If one of my classmates came, it would be hard to rummage through all the lockers. I swiftly began opening the lockers one by one. They were mostly just filled with things in like gym clothes, personal items, and umbrellas. An umbrella. If I couldn't find anything better, then this would have to be my weapon. I was about to give up on finding anything decent when I opened a locker that held exactly what I wanted. It was, without a doubt, a metal bat. Was it in Rena's locker? It was well worn and pre-beaten up, but there was no doubt it was useful. In the locker that rigged the mold, there also hung a baseball uniform. It was probably the locker of a student in the Pee-wee League or something like that. Okay, well, so it's not Rena's locker. Okay. Because Keiichi would definitely know that which is Rena's locker for sure. And if it's of a random student, then it's definitely not Rena's. If that was the case, then he probably asked for it back. At the time, I could hear the voices of children scuffling their way noisily from the hallway. The thing is, though, you gotta be careful about this situation over here. You are gonna take the bat. That student is gonna figure out that he no longer has the bat. The girls may end up thinking of the possibility that somebody took that metal bat. Someone like Keiichi, who is acting quite suspicious lately in their eyes. So maybe they would come to the conclusion that he would take the metal bat with him. Which makes him very suspicious in their eyes, and thus they would search even more. And then they will be on your track. So you gotta be careful about that, Keiichi. Amongst them, I could make out Rika-chan and Satoko.
おはようございますです。
Good morning, Rika. Oh, you.
あらあらあら、今朝はお早いですわね、ケイチさん。
Ah, there's the little brat. My little brat. Who walks like a rat. I nonchalantly hit the bat I was holding behind my back.
なんなんですの、その身なりは。泥だらけでしたよ。
ああ、まあちょっとあってな。すぐ着替えるから勘弁しろ。
With that said, I began taking off my clothes. Satoko began to blush just as I expected her to.
レディーの前でお着替えなんてしつけがなってませんことよ。
Again, you keep talking about this lady, but I don't see like any lady around here.
着替えをじーっと見てるレディーもしつけがなってないと思うぞ。男子は更衣室がないんだから諦めろ。
Wait, you're saying that the classroom itself is the changing room? Well, I guess so. That was the same case for my school as well, back in high school. Like, the classroom was the changing room, so we had to take turns. Like, at one point, it would be the guys who are changing, and then next it would be the girls. Or vice versa. I don't know who was first. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh boy, I do remember one time when I walked in, like, inside, without thinking. Like, there were 3 girls that were changing. I didn't know at the time. I didn't think that the girls were changing at the time. So I walked in, and... well, obviously, I covered my eyes, like a split second after seeing them. They were yelling at me as well. Conversely, Rika-chan continued to stare at me, preparing to change.
リカちゃんもレディーなら着替えを見てるのは良くないと思うぞ。
僕はレディーじゃないですからいいのです。
Rika? She deliberately paused and looked at me with upturned eyes.
じゃあリカちゃんも今からレディーだ。
Yep, you're officially a lady right now. So you should just look the other way. As for you, Satoko, you are not a lady. You are a rat. And rats should just go outside.
レディーなら仕方ありませんです。
Rika-chan, appearing to be satisfied with being considered a lady, made her way to join Satoko in the hallway. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Rika-chan stopped suddenly and turned back towards me.
ケイチは野球を始めますですか？
Yeah. It seems that Rika-chan had noticed the bat.
ああ、ちょっとさ。体がなまってさ。ちょっと素振りでも始めようかなってな。
健康に気を使うのはとても良いことだと思いますです。
She was talking like an old lady, despite her appearance. After saying that, Rika-chan started to leave again, but stopped and looked back at me once more.
そのバットなくさないでくださいねです。
Yeah. Since she already knew I took it out of someone's locker. Oh. Darn it. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I thought that she was saying something spooky there. Or maybe she was. Maybe it has double meaning. Maybe it's like, make sure you don't lose your bat. Your one and only weapon that you could use to defend yourself.